You want to eat? You want to eat something, right?
I'll eat later. I ate a little bit now because I was hungry, but now.
Well, it's a pleasure to have Pericles. He just moved to Rutgers this year, or?
This year, yeah.
This year, from Tsinghua University, and somewhat web production.
Thank you, Sanjeev. So I will be talking about, I'm from Rutgers Business School, so I'm talking about complexity theory here. And so this is joint work with Chen Xiteng from Tsinghua University. Do you have another? No, right? Doesn't, okay. So this is a talk about circuits. So this is a circuit. This is the input, let's say n bits, and this is an output. We consider circuits that they have only one output bit. And the circuit consists of gates. And we're going to consider circuits that they have a layering structure. That is, you have a bunch of AND gates and OR gates and so on, all the way to the end. The depth of the circuit is this. And you can push all the negations to the input level if you like, without too much trouble. For this talk, in fact, without too much trouble. OK, so there are many resources you may count for circuits. So two of them, the most popular ones, is the size and the depth. In this talk, I will be considering the depth, of course, in relation with the size. Okay. So which question am I asking? Suppose that we have a circuit that has depth d. Is it possible to efficiently compress this into a circuit of depth 2? Okay. Do you know the answer to this question? How many people, if you don't have efficiently here, then this thing can always be done, right? If you're willing to pay an exponential blow up.
When you say in the size, blow up
in the size. The size. I mean, this is always possible. So the question is if you can do it efficiently.
So is the compression you're interested in efficient algorithms as well? Or
it will be an explicit, yeah. But for the moment, we do not even know if, yeah. So our goal is to have circuits that they have depth 2 or 3, and they are not too big. I'm going to quantify this. And this process is called depth reduction. Okay. So now the question is, you have some type of gates here, like AND OR, like before, and some other types of gates here, gates over there. So suppose that you have AND OR and NOT. This is the question that I had before. And this is in general not possible. Unless you're willing to pay an exponential factor in the blow-up. This is proved when the world was young. Okay. Now suppose that we are allowing to have more gates. I mean, we do not only have AND OR and NOT, but we're going to have this guy here, a mod 2 gate. Then I have a reason, obviously, for showing this thing in the slide. Let's see what mod 2 is good for. First of all, let me define mod 2. Mod 2 is a gate. It's a Boolean function, basically. It takes n input bits, capital N, let's say. It's a polynomial parameter related to the input size. And this Boolean function is going to be, this Boolean gate is either going to be 0 or 1. It's going to be even 1 if and only if 2 is dividing the Hamming weight of the input. Okay? I don't know, some of the movements, I don't know why they happen. I just clicked to, so it does it automatically. So if you get disease. Okay, so suppose now, so here is one, let me show you one thing that you can do with mod 2 gates. Suppose that you have an OR function here, and this OR function has 4 input bits. So my goal for the next 2 minutes will be to reduce the size of this OR gate. I will allow mod gates to have many input bits, but I want the OR gates or the AND gates to have a small number of a small fan-in. Okay, so whenever I'm talking about OR and AND, I can use a mod gate in order to implement a negation very easily. So I can switch between the two. Or whenever I say OR, you can think of it as an AND, and whenever I say an AND, you can think of it as an OR. It doesn't matter. Okay, you do not hurt the goal that I have here. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to multiply, I'm going to take this bit x1 and I'm going to multiply it with, with a random bit. And I'm going to do the same thing for all the input bits here. So now, if the original input, if the output of this guy is 0, this is 0 if and only if all the input bits are 0, in which case the same thing is going to happen here as well. Because 0 times anything is going to be 0 everywhere here. Okay? And okay, so maybe I have to invert the output. Not for this definition of the mod, sorry, this is a typo. Is I output 1 if and only if it is not divisible by 2, let's say. I can always place another mod and invert the output. Okay? So, oh, no, I have fixed it. So I put in 1 here. I put in 1 here. Now, the output is going to be 0. The output here is going to be 0 only in the case where this thing is 0. At least in the, when the input is 0, then the output here is going to be 0. And the point is that if I have one, let's say that you have only one in the input. With probability 1 over 2, you're going to actually see this one surviving here. And similarly, you can think about what happens if you have more than one in the input. Okay, so I have a zero-sided error construction, and now I can do the following. I can just in parallel put together many copies of this construction. I'm going to be using the same x, x1, x2, x3, x4, x1, x2, x3, x4, and so on. But for each of these cases, I'm going to be using fresh randomness, and therefore I can make the error go down exponentially. Okay, exponentially in the amount of repetitions of this guy. So if I want, in other words, if I want to do this simulation for every OR gate in the circuit, and the circuit has a polynomial number of gates, then by just making this repetition a logarithmic number of times here, I'm able then to take a union bound and have a positive probability that the whole circuit computes correctly. Union bound is going to account, doesn't care about correlations or anything. Do you have questions?
You headed towards Torah's theorem?
I'm heading there. I'm heading there.
Okay. It's useful because in my class I was going to get there in a couple of weeks.
Okay, so maybe not in this speed, I hope. So therefore, the maximum degree. So in other words, you're replacing one OR gate with this funny construction that makes errors sometimes. If you make the error smaller than 1 over the size of your circuit, let's say that you have n gates in this n square gates, and you're making the error 1 over n cube, okay, by making 3 times log n repetitions here. Okay, if you do that, then what's going to happen is that the whole circuit, in order to err, is going to err with probability 1 over n. Okay. This thing can be de-randomized using some nowadays simple error correcting code technique by Vali and Vazirani. So it's going to blow up. So what did I say? I said if we start with and or and not.
De-randomize. Oh, I see. Because it's log. All of this is log.
It's log, so you're going to pay another log factor. It's going to be a log square. So the final circuit is going to have log square many. It's going to have gates, and it's going to have OR gates or AND gates that have at most log square fan-in the de-randomized world. And in the random, when you have randomness, the circuit is going to have fan-in at most. These gates are going to have fan-in at most log n. Okay. So I asked, what is mod 2 good for? Mod 2 is good for reducing the fan-in of always. You can do that, okay? You can reduce the fan-in of the AND gates. Suppose that you have a circuit that has only AND gates and negations, let's say. And this is in general good. Generally good, because we are aiming for constructing polynomials, and polynomials are very sensitive to the I'm giving you the heads up, okay? Polynomials are very sensitive to the fan-in of these gates. So you will see in a while. So now I have AND mod 2 AND. Suppose that I can use mod gates in order to implement negations very simply. So I can have a circuit that has only AND gates. The maximum fan-in of the AND gate is going to be logarithmic or polylogarithmic. And I have I also have mod gates. That's the only thing that exists in the circuit. Okay. Now, what are these circuits? I can think of an end as being very good. I can think of an end as being a multiplication operation over a field over GF2, and the same thing holds for all ends. And I can think the mods as being just additions, because it is addition over the finite field. So this is basically an arithmetic circuit. I mean, it can be viewed as an arithmetic circuit over, with today's standards, we wouldn't call this, it's an arithmetic circuit over GF2. Okay? So it computes this polynomial. If you multiply here, x1 times x2 is going to be this term here, and if you do, you're going to see that this arithmetic circuit expresses this polynomial here. Okay? More generally, so what happened? What is the degree of this polynomial? Can anybody tell me how the degree of this polynomial relates to the GF2? Okay. Okay. So if you have size S of n and the maximum Fun-in of a gate, here the gates are of constant Fun-in. But if the maximum Fun-in is otherwise you're fine. If the maximum Fun-in is delta of n, then it is easy to see that the circuit is going to, then it's easy to see that this arithmetic circuit is going to have the number of terms is going to be S of n to the delta of n to the d of n. Okay? So the degree is going to be this guy here. Just trust me, this is a 30 seconds thing, okay? But I'm not going to do it here. So for polynomial size circuits and log n Fun-in, what you're going to have is 2 to the log n to the O of the number of terms. And this is a formal polynomial. Therefore, if you have a polynomial that has that many terms, you can always write it, if you have any polynomial, you can always write it as a depth 2 circuit using a multiplication here, which is as many as the term, as the degree of the circuit in the worst case. Okay?
But it's still else.
Sorry?
It's still else. Like small probability doesn't produce the right answer.
Okay, so you can de-randomize this, and you can make it. You can pay a logarithmic factor here in the Fun-in. You can have a deterministic circuit, same depth.
He's talking about error. Is the circuit making error or not?
This circuit makes error if you have log n, but you can de-randomize it by paying a logarithmic factor here, in which case you're going to pay log square here, and this square is going to be the 2, can be hidden inside the constant in the exponent over here. I answered your question, but maybe I didn't answer it very well.
No.
The randomization still leaves error. I think that was the question.
There's still error in the end.
No, if you de-randomize.
You need the degree n if you want to do it without any error.
No. You can de-randomize it completely by using Valley and Vazirani. No error. This is what de-randomize mean. No.
If you have a low-degree polynomial, it cannot compute the n.
You cannot compute the way.
I mean, the n is 1 on one point and 0 everywhere else. So it can't be.
So but if you have log squared, the degree there is already bigger than n anyways, right?
Why log square?
Oh, that's a degree. No.
Log square is not.
Yeah, the degree is log square.
Okay.
No, not the degree. What is the next?
Oh, yes. Sorry. You need. You are right. There is still error in the de-randomization step. So this is a big mistake in fact. In the de-randomization step, there is a threshold gate on the top. Okay. So you are right. I'm sorry.
Most inputs, or in some cases. So it computes the same function on most.
There is a symmetric gate on the top. You're right. Okay.
For every input you are.
So for this one, yes. Okay. So for everything that's on this slide about the circuit that uses randomness, everything is correct. In order to de-randomize it, you need to. In order to de-randomize, you're going to add one more special gate in the top to connect many things. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. Okay. Of course, you cannot compute an end gate that has. Okay. Okay, this is all for everything I said before is for random circuits, okay? Randomized circuits. So, an ACC2 circuit of constant depth is a polynomial of a randomized ACC2 circuit of constant depth is a polynomial of this degree. and the circuit with gates and or this is a circuit with gates and or not, and the constant depth and polynomial size. Okay, I forgot to write randomness everywhere. More generally, you could have log size, and this is the depth.
Wait, it's not equal. So again, there's this error, right?
Yeah. Everywhere there is randomness.
Error.
Everywhere there is error, one-sided error, there are random bits everywhere in the input. I'm gonna get to the point of actually removing the randomness
And is it actually
later.
one-sided because?
Because when you simulate the OR gate, if everything in this construction, if everything is 0, then 0 is going to multiply all the random bits. Each 0 is going to multiply. So if I go back here,
Yeah, without looking at this is what happens.
So-
with
so-
solar cell,
yeah. So if I multiply here with zeros, if this is 0, 0, 0 everywhere, the outputs are going to be 0. Okay. Okay, good point. Very embarrassing. But I'm going to remove randomness soon. Okay. Okay, this is randomized, a randomized circuit, okay? More generally, you have this. As a sanity check, these lower bounds here hold even if you have randomness, by the way, because they do hold, even if you use they use a switching lemma, in fact, in order to these lower bounds that I'm talking.
And the new results that show that you can even block symmetry.
Yes, correct. But I'm talking about the more ancient results here. Okay, so we have a circuit which is we turn it a randomized circuit which we turn it into a low degree arithmetic circuit, and the low degree arithmetic circuit can be mapped. Sorry, I have something missing here. A low degree arithmetic circuit can be mapped back into a quasi-polynomial depth 2 circuit. And before I told you that this thing cannot happen. In fact, these results say that you cannot go from depth k to k minus 1. So as a sanity check, why this? The reason is that the reason is that these lower bounds here hold when you are not having a mod 2 gate. Okay. So by adding, so to compute the parity, you need you cannot do this in constant depth. Okay, I'm just saying we use a new gate. That's the whole point. And in fact, we should have used the new gate. I mean, even if you want to do compression, even if you want to do depth reduction here, you still have to use this gate over here. I mean, by itself you cannot do it. So by using this gate, at least by using this gate, you can do the depth reduction. Okay. Furthermore, if you have the mod 2 gate already in the circuit, this is not going to hurt your reduction. Okay. So what happens if you have, instead of a mod 2, you have a mod p gate? People know? P is prime. Sorry.
You're saying is that analog of Valen was running for?
No. I'm saying that when you have the circuit and you view it as a mod 2 as a polynomial over GF2, then n corresponds to times, and mod corresponds to the XOR, to plus. When you go to mod 3, you do not have this anymore. So there is mod 3. What does it mean, mod 3? These are Boolean functions, right? This is not a mod operation. This is a Boolean function. So it's not an arithmetical function. So if you have x1 up to xn, this is going to be equal to 1 even only if the number of ones is a multiple of p. Otherwise, it's 0. Okay, it has only 2 values. But mod p is not an arithmetical function. And that's the whole problem.
I mean, you can raise to the power of p minus 1.
Yeah. So for primes, if you have p is a prime, then things are very simple because you can actually apply Fermat-Slitot theorem. So p is the prime associated with the circuit class. So p is constant. Okay, so when you raise something here, this is constant with respect to the circuits. The circuits grow. Okay, the PP remains the same. For all ACCP circuits, the P is the same, is 3 for the entire thing. So you can actually raise it. You can always turn a mod P gate using this gadget here into a mod P function. So before you had the circuit, after you do these local replacements, you have to use some AND gates in order to do the exponentiation. After you do these local replacements, what's going to happen is that you can view the circuit as having these types of gates, as having mod P gates. Mod P small, now from this point on it's going to be ultimately confusing because I'm going to say small mod, arithmetic mod. I'm going to say arithmetic mod P, okay? So P is constant. Therefore, again, randomized ACCP circuits are polynomials over GFP, okay? Of the same degree. Everything we said before carries through here. I mean, this is the only thing you have to do, okay? And this was known from the 80s. It is very simple and elegant. And this result was proved like many years ago, okay? So this is for the de-randomized version of the theorem. So that's why you see a threshold gate. A threshold gate is a gate that, it's a majority, in fact, in this case. It doesn't matter for these types of circuits. So a threshold gate is a gate that above some number is going to fire. If the Hamming weight of the input is above some integer, is going to shoot. Otherwise, it's not. And you can use this in obvious ways in order to de-randomize the previous construction. And the size is 2 to the log to the O of D. One thing to note is what people were insisting before, that the fan-in of these AND gates is going to be polylogarithmic. Okay? That's why you were complaining before, how can we compute the AND gate if you don't? Okay. So what does it mean threshold mod P AND? Just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, it means you have, at the bottom you have ANDs, then you have mod P's, and then you have a threshold gate. This is what it means. Okay? Okay, and you can collapse these two into a symmetric gate. Symmetric gate is a function that depends from the integers to 0, 1. It's a function that depends only on the Hamming weight of the input. Okay? So this is a very simple result. This is a really very simple result. It was proved back in 1999 by Eric Allender and Ulrich Herkpaft. Okay? And
these were not considered simple. I mean, Toda's theorem was a major big deal.
We're not there yet because Toda's theorem is about composites.
About?
Composite numbers. So all these things hold when you can do Fermat's little theorem. You can do Fermat's little theorem.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Okay, fine.
This is also the box.
No, but they're symmetric and so on.
Yes. So now I'm going
but
to.
the symmetric and so on. They're all from Toda's theorem.
Yeah. And Toda's theorem by today's standard is a simple theorem, right? Yeah. So an immediate consequence of, so basically what have I said so far? I have told you that you take circuits that have AND or NOT gates, then you add mod P gates. These are gates that if the number of ones in the input of the mod P is a multiple of P, then you're gonna fire. Otherwise, you're gonna output 0. Okay, this is what I have said so far. These circuits, we have a way of, by making some local replacement using Fermat's little theorem, to view the entire circuit as a polynomial, which if you have randomness is of low degree. If you don't have randomness, it's still of low degree, but you have to put another extra gate on the top in order to de-randomize the construction. This is all I have seen. So, this is all I have told you so far. So in other words, these circuits are polynomials are arithmetic polynomials of a certain degree. And if you do this, then there is an immediate consequence. This consequence has a name. It's called the Rasbora-Smolensky theorem. Okay, maybe not so immediate back in 30 years ago. And it says that if you try to compute, let's say exactly, doesn't matter, the mod Q, this is the function I want to compute. This is a Boolean function. It is a gate. All this time is a gate, but it's also a Boolean function by itself, right? So I cannot compute using without paying an exponential. When I'm saying cannot compute, I mean without paying an exponential amount these are polynomial size circuits, okay? And even slightly sub-exponential still. So I cannot compute this guy using anything like that. So this is when you have primes. So for primes, if you have primes, the questions are essentially settled. For depth reduction and for lower bounds, for everything. We know everything. We know that ACC3 is not the same as ACC5, is not the same as ACC2 for every prime. We also we know that when you have ACC3 circuits, then you can always take them and make them super parallel. You can reduce to depth 2, and you can plug in a symmetric gate. So we know everything, and we know everything from the 80s, end of 80s, everything. Okay, this is when the arithmetic is done with prime numbers, and these are all consequences of Fermat's little theorem, nothing else. But there is no Fermat's little theorem for composite numbers. I mean, when I'm saying composite, I mean when the gates here inside this circuit are mod M. This is ACCM. M is, let's say, P times R, and it is co-prime with respect to Q. Okay, then we don't know. Questions? Okay, so what happens when we have composites? This is why I'm talking here today. Okay, so what is an ACC6 circuit? An ACC6 circuit is AND or NOT and mod 6 gates. Again, the same thing. If the number of ones in the input of this guy is a multiple of 6, you're going to output 1, otherwise you're going to output 0. And this can be viewed to be the same, modulo a polynomial factor, to a circuit that has two types of mod gates. It has mod 2 gates and mod 3 gates. So, and these two are equivalent. So now here is a question, how powerful? I mean, can we do, if we don't have prime numbers here, if we have composite numbers, can we do anything more? Okay, this is number one. And the second is, so do we know any constructions? Do we know any algorithms that they take advantage of this power? And the second, thing is that, do we know any lower bounds for this thing? Okay? So Sanjeev, in his book, he has a whole chapter about, yeah. Where you have a chapter where yeah. So this is the first time I saw it, at least.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Well, those of us who grew up at a somewhat earlier time.
Okay.
People are interested in this question.
Okay. So, I mean, why I made this comment? Because the book is written in 2010, and the questions are still widely open. Okay.
Well, they've been open for 30 years.
Yeah.
25 years.
So we have no clue how to use mod 6 gates to do interesting things. We have very little, in fact. I'm lying a little bit here. And we have no clue, neither, you would think that if you can give algorithms, then you cannot prove lower bounds, for example. I can do something, though it's hard to prove lower bounds. Or if you can prove lower bounds, then it's reasonable that some lower bounds, but we can do none of the two, okay? So today I'm going to show you that it is possible to have a triple exponential improvement. There is a construction, in fact, here. Okay, there is a depth reduction. You're going to see.
Maybe
Okay.
point it to the.
I will do that. So for this guy, we know a little more, and let me show you what is the little more. Suppose that you have applied the Fermat little theorem, and everything in the circuit has become like this. So I told you that one way of thinking about these guys is as just computing polynomials over mod 3 and mod 2. If you apply locally Fermat's little theorem, you get rid of this big mod, the Boolean gate, and you can think of this just as a polynomial now. Okay? So I do this step. From this point on, I always do it in my head. And this is what I have. Okay? So now here is the problem. This creature, no mathematician would have looked at this. Okay? So this is a thing that doesn't have, that inside the same circuit, you have different fields coexisting. Okay? I mean, you have a GF2 field and you have a GF3 here. So as a notation, this thing means x1 plus x2, whatever. It means the obvious. I'm writing mod instead of writing GF2 because otherwise I should have done something like which is called lifting operation and then something which is called natural projection. I don't want to do that, okay? I'm just going to use mods and accumulating mods itself. Okay? Just in case there are people that are mathematically more sophisticated and they say why he's not doing it. Okay, so now let's see the problem. What happens when you have composite, this is Todd sphere. When you have composite arithmetic. Suppose that I have a circuit when I have a mod 3 of mod 2s here. So if I write this as a polynomial, if I write this as an expression, it's not polynomial anymore. As an expression, it's going to be this guy here. It is x1, x2 plus x3 mod 2 plus this operation mod 2, this operation, and this plus is here, the other plus. I should have parenthesized it appropriately, but I haven't. Sorry. So these operations, these pluses are going to happen mod 3. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So how to compute this? Here is one thing I can do, right? This is mod 2, mod 2, mod 2. Maybe I can just put them together. Can I? So what do you think? The answer is no. Why I cannot?
The numbers between 0, 1, and 2, the result inside the mod 3.
Yes. So okay, it should be obvious probably. Yeah. So we cannot do that, and the reason is, for instance, if you choose 1 and 1 here, then the output here is 0. Everything else I'm not saying is 0. Okay. If I choose 2 1s here, then the output of this guy is 0. Then I have another one here. Then the output of this guy is 1. Then another one here. Then the output of this guy is 1. So I have 1 plus 1 plus 0. Mod 3 is something not 0. But if I do it, sorry, what did I say? This example is wrong. I have to have 3 1s here. Then if I have 3 1s here, this is 1 plus 1 plus 1. Mod 3 is 0. But if I do it 5, it's non-zero. Okay? If I just do this first and then the other is non-zero. So here is one thing I can do. I can take this form here. I can square it, and I can change the modulus. I can amplify the modulus. Okay, this is a very natural idea. But this is also a place where no mathematician would have gone. Because these things, this is not a finite field. It's not like the 2 to the 2. This is at 4, okay? So I'm amplifying this modulus and I'm making it x1 plus x2 plus x3 squared. And I'm doing the same thing here, x4 plus x5 squared, and I'm changing the modulus. And trust me that the result here is the same as the result here, okay? I mean, the result here is the same as here locally, and here is the same as here, and locally here is the same as this one. So why I'm choosing why did I choose mod 4? I chose 4 because 4 is bigger than 3. is the first exponent of 2, of what I had here before, which is bigger than 3, and 3 is not this 3. 3 is unfortunately is a coincidence. 3 is the fan-in of this guy here. Okay? This is the fan-in of the mod 3 function. And if I do this, then if I do this amplification over the modulus, then I have mod 4, mod 4, mod 4. And this is the same as putting a mod 4 here. Why? Because here I have at most 3 ones that can happen. So there's going to be no, I'm stupidly choosing a modulus which is higher than the operation that I can perform. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's all I'm doing. So I can write mod 4 here, and I can write mod 4 here, because I can. But if I do this, then I can just put the mod 4 outside. And then what I have is that I have this operation mod 4 and then mod 3. So what happens is that I'm pushing like a bubble on the top of the circuit a mod 4 operation and a mod 3. And these operations, if you think about it, all these things, these are functions. These are not gates anymore. These are not Boolean gates. These are arithmetical functions. So this is a function from the integers. I'm computing this over the integers, okay? Is a function from the integers to 0, 1. And I have a guarantee that it's going to be 0, 1 because I have done Fermat's little theorem. Not here, but in general, when I'm applying Fermat's little theorem, I have a guarantee that I'm preserving. If I have 0, 1s in the input, everywhere in the circuit, I'm going to be seeing 0 and 1s. Are you with me? OK. So thus, mod becomes a symmetric gate. Symmetric is a gate that depends only on the number of 1s in the input, and then end. Because these are pushed, in a sense, are pushed all the way up. And here I'm doing some operations using, to do the squaring, for instance. What does it mean to do the squaring? x1 plus x2 plus x3 squared. It means x1 squared plus x2 squared plus x3 squared plus 2 times x1 times x2 plus 2 times x1 times x3 plus 2 times x2. I mean, you have to open it up, right? And then you apply the AND gates. And then you have everything. Then you have everything you need. You can actually write this form. That's what I mean. Okay.
The more efficient way to do such things is the Tora trick, right?
Sorry?
Which is a quadratic. The Tora trick.
Yes.
That's what you would do, right? Because it's more efficient than the square.
In fact, this is one you can do. The other is what Bagel and Taro is doing, which is even better than that. But this not. Yes. The answer is yes. And it's not really, this is just an example for people who haven't seen.
It's an example, I see.
So a symmetric gate. OK, so basically, this is this simple idea. You have the modulus, and you just amplify it. And you amplify the modulus to something that is bigger than the Fanin, and it's bigger than the fact that you can see it is bigger than all the arithmetic operations you are doing currently locally at this point. OK? So this is a lot of waste. And this is a small issue, in fact, in the construction. So suppose now, again, we're talking about what happens when you have in the same circuit mod 2 and mod 3 gates. And now you have replaced them by mod functions, mod 2 functions, and mod 3 arithmetical functions. So when you do this, then there is a blow up in the degree of the polynomial you're constructing. Okay? There will be a blow up. And if this were not enough, you're not going to have only mod gates, but you're going to have mods and ends and mods. You're going to have this type. And even if you didn't have this, if you remember from the previous slide, I'm going to replace the whole construction with a symmetric gate and an end. I mean, I'm generating ends when they don't. I mean, if you see in the previous slide, I'm going to generate an end, even if the ends were not there. I'm going to just making them show up. And you know what an end gate does on the amplified modulus? If this guy here, it blows up the degree, and the end gates, they multiply the blowed up degree. Can you guess how much will be the bound? I mean, I haven't shown you any calculations, I don't expect. So it's triple exponential in the depth. If you do this construction, you're going to pay the size to the log n to the number of prime factors of the composite number you have to the depth. Okay, triple exponential bound. And again, the big issue is that you have mod amplifiers and you have AND gates which multiply the mod amplifiers, so it does screw up everything. Okay. So this is the Bagel and Taro theorem, and also Andy Yao had proved this before using randomness. Okay. Here the parameters are better, and de-randomize the construction. That for every SCCM circuit, there is a depth 2 circuit that has 2 to the log to the 2 to the O of D. Okay? So when D is constant, then this is not a problem. I mean, people who do math, they believe that this is a constant, right? So it's 2 to the D of, it's still a constant for many people. Okay? 2 to the log to the. But when the depth D changes, then this whole thing changes too. So we have two worlds. One is the world of the prime numbers, and the other is the world of the composites. And this was, up until today, the state of the art for these two worlds. The first world is 2 to the log to the O of D, and the other is 2 to the log to the 2 to the O of D. Okay? This is the world of primes, and this is triple exponential, this is double exponential. So I think this is called exponentially more than that. Okay? If you see it as an exponent. Okay? If you divide it, this is triple exponential. Okay. There's an exponential gap. This is for depth reduction. Okay? And for lower bounds, why I talk about lower bounds? Because I can basically. We have this theorem that we know everything for primes, and what is the world for composites? For composites, we have very limited knowledge. It's very embarrassing, the state of affairs. The first thing here is a question: can ACC 6, this means constant depth circuits with mod 6 gates, compute mod 5? This was a question people can ask. It's a similar question because this is co-prime to that, right? And for all we know, here is one thing, in fact, much more than that. For all we know now, I mean, it could be the case that the ACC 6 can compute the entire NP. So this is one indication what it means embarrassing. Let me tell you, there is a conjecture, though, in these very first works that they proved this thing. There was a conjecture that the same thing holds if P and Q are relatively prime. Okay? I guess this is what Sanjeev mentioned before about 30 years. So this is a 31-year-old conjecture. And let me tell you the state of affairs. That if you have ACC, in fact, you can have a little bit funnier than ACC. It's in 2014. But Ryan Williams, he proved that non-deterministic exponential time is not contained in the non-uniform version of this. Okay? So just to give you some, the previous was exponential gap. This is, I don't even want to mention. But here is one thing that if you go to exponential space, in fact, even a little bit below exponential space, if you go to the analog of sigma 4 that you already have unconditional. If you go a little bit above that, you don't talk about ACC. You already have. It's an exercise for a class. You know, you already have exponential circuit lower bounds. So this does push the state of affairs. It is a big result. Okay, compared to because we knew nothing, but still it is very far away from what it was conjectured. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? At least this part. So how does this lower bound go? This lower bound has many interesting ideas, in fact. And one thing it does, the very first step, in fact, it does. In the very first step, it relies. So this lower bound, when Williams proved this lower bound, he uses this the previous slide's depth compression algorithm. I mean, he starts with a circuit that is depth whatever, constant, and he's bringing it to depth 2, and then when he brings it to depth 2, then he can do stuff there. Okay? So in the very first step, he's going to pay. Williams' result pays the cost of doing this. And then there is somebody observed, in fact, that if you do Bagel and Tarry, because it is triple exponential, Williams' result directly extends to depth. When I'm writing depth small o log n, I mean any function here.
You need the circuit size to be smaller than exponential, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have triple exponential, anything below that, it's exactly what you need. Okay, it's not exactly anything below that. Anything almost below that is exactly what you need. Okay, there's some minor trivialities I don't want to mention now. Okay, and that's so. In other words, if you improve the depth compression algorithm, you improve the knowledge about one implication, direct implication, is is the knowledge about this lower bound. Okay, so this circuit lower bound. So one implication of what I'm going to say is an almost exponential improvement to this. It's an immediate consequence, because then the consequence goes to log n over log n. I mean, we have from triple exponential bringing it down to double exponential, and this is one of the consequences of the result. The result has many consequences. This is one of them. Okay, the current knowledge. For constructions, we have depth. Let me sum up. We have depth reduction. If you have primes, this is 2 to the log to the d. If you have composite, this is 2 to the log to the 2. These two, to the O of d. And other things here that maybe if Avi Wigderson were in the audience, I would have mentioned. And this, I mean, I could have discussed more, but they are not directly relevant. That's why I'm not discussing them. And then we have exponential lower bounds for ACCP versus mod Q. And we have Ryan's result. And we have, there is an industry of many results of you look circuits that are of depth 2 or depth 3, but they have several restrictions, and people have proved many new results there, okay? Including myself, in fact, and Shidan. And one thing to remember is that this guy here is a step. These two worlds are related. It's a step to do that. Okay, this is a world of constructions, this is a world of lower bounds. So I said before the current knowledge. No, this is the current knowledge. We can do exponentially better than that. Okay? UNG knows because we tried for quite a while to back when the world was not so old as this one, but we tried to do it. So I've been working on this problem for too many years, I guess. So this is what the result is saying. For every ACCM circuit, there is a depth 2 circuit that has this bound. So you get exactly the same result as Allender and Hepcraft. I cannot pronounce the name, but I'm not doing it intentionally. Same as for, so this is the same result as for ACCP circuits. What was the issue? The issue was that we have mod amplifiers and then we have AND gates amplifying the already. So you pace here a blow up and then you blow up the blow up. This was the issue. So, and it seems very difficult to control the blow up. And if you try to use number theory or whatever, then there are a whole lot of obstacles that people, I mean, at least we experience many. So we are not going to control. We're not going to try to control the way that the AND gates actually get into the argument. Instead, we're going to do something different. This is a recurring idea in computer science. We're going to do some construction that we're going to pay something in the beginning. So we're going to make things worse in the beginning than before. And then we're going to do a step that makes things much, much better. So we're going to lose something by removing the AND gates. And then we're going to then we're going to come back and we're going to see that this didn't cost, just reduce the cost so much when you do this step. This is a recurring idea in PCPs, in expanders, in zigzag products, and so on. Okay, I mean the high-level idea, not the details. And we're going to remove the ends. Okay, so we're going to introduce a linearization structure which increases the size by little and replaces the products by sums. So this is what's going to happen. This is the circuit linearization lemma, and for any given composite numbers, integers r and k, that they are co-prime. By the way, the lemma is for any composites, okay? Because later on, Ryan came and he said, how about you do it for ACC6? He had some ideas, so he actually suggested things that they work for. Maybe they work for every, but they have to rely on Fourier analysis, and there is no Fourier analysis that happens for the world where you don't have fields here, okay? So here is, we have an AND gate, and we have a bunch of, we just forget about this p is some polynomial, but we have an AND gate, and then we have a bunch of mod gates with some inputs. We're going to turn this into, a sum of mod gates. And we're going to pay a few things. We're going to pay here a factor inside the polynomials. We're going to pay so we're going to pay a few things. But the whole point is that we're going to remove the product. And after we do that, we're going to come from mod R, we're going to introduce a mod M here. In other words, this theorem uses the power of composite arithmetic. I mean, the linearization, even if you didn't have composite numbers in the circuit, if you start with a circuit that has only mod 3, and you want to do Allender's the Allender's-Hepcraft construction using our technique, you should have introduced composite arithmetic because this is a new algorithm. This is a new way of using the power of composite numbers. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's not a problem. It's good that we have them there. Yeah.
What's the M here?
Sorry. M. Oh yeah, good point. M is supposed to be. This is not K. Okay, thank you.
So K is everywhere?
No, this is the number. This is an end of many mod gates. We have just K mod gates. Yeah. This K is not a parameter in the theorem. It is a parameter in the theorem, but it is the number of mod gates that you are putting together. Thank you. Okay. These are coprimes. You see, you're going to make things much worse. You're going to make them R to the K. But this happens only in the beginning, because then you're going to see, in fact. This is a product, and this is a sum, and this is a mod M and not a mod M function. Okay? As an example, you can think when you have a mod R and a mod M, by doing this construction, you're going to turn it into a structure like mod R and mod M.
So M can be smaller than R?
M can be anything, yeah. Anything. Okay?
Wait, they're both even, R and M? Is it even? Is it even composites?
Not even sorry. This is even for composite numbers. I just want to make sure that if you have any ideas of using Fourier analysis, you're not going to do it. Okay, that's why I'm writing this. Okay, so the argument for arbitrary R and M relies on some properties of arithmetical functions. And it's a very lengthy calculation, and I didn't do this calculation. Okay, but I have verified it. So I'm not gonna talk about this. So there is a calculation in the beginning. People know what is the Mobius function, Mobius inversion formula. Have you heard of this? So my co-author apparently he knows Sitang. He knows a lot about this, and he has a specific way of dealing with certain correlations that happen. Let me give you the high level. So there is a very lengthy inclusion-exclusion principle that you can apply in order to reduce the problem into smaller subproblems and tackle them independently. And if you use these functions here in a clever way and do these very lengthy calculations, you can just reduce it at once. This proof has several pages proof to the reduction. But this is not, it can be done lengthier from more elementary principles. This is all I want to say. Okay? So I'm going to present the lemma for a prime Q and an M which is just comprime. M can be composite, can be just coprime, and I'm just going to give you a very high level of how it goes. It's very simple. Okay? So you can have a mod Q Boolean gate. A mod Q Boolean gate, this is called an exponential sum. I'm going to express a mod Q Boolean gate as this summation here. Oh God. This is the qth root of unity. Sorry, I didn't define this. Can I write here? This is the qth root of unity. Okay? And if you think for a second, you're going to realize that if this is 0, then this is also 0, and if this is 1, then this is also 1. Okay? That's all. So this thing has been used before. This writing mod Q gates by this trick. Okay? This in functional by expressing the mod Q gates in this way, then it has been used a lot in proving lower bounds. Okay, but now now I want to use it for doing an algorithm. Okay. So what do I have? I have a mod Q that I have a product. I have a product of sums. So the product of sums, I mean, if you open it up, what you're going to see, I mean, by just opening it up, you're going to see this thing. I mean, the product of summations is going to be a sum of things over, you know, these things were over from 1 up to k, and these things are going to become, you're going to take them from f q to the k. You're going to take all possible elements here, and you're going to take the sum here. Okay? The q to the k went there because this has an inverse. It has an inverse, so I can actually do that. Okay? And now how do you compute this? If we are lucky and we massage this a little bit and if we have a lot of luck, then suddenly we can make, you know, we started with mods, we made these things show up. Now we put them all together, and if we are lucky, we're going to make the mods again show up here. This is the goal, right? We started with mods, and we want to end up with mods. Okay? And we are lucky. The way to do it is that you partition this guy into appropriate classes. So you are you're multiplying this f q to the k with, you do the left regular, you are multiplying with the same element, and then you look at the orbit, you look at this is trivialities, okay? This is called an action, and this has orbits which partition the space into equivalence classes, basically, okay? And it happens to be the case that for these equivalence classes, if you try to compute this summation inside each equivalence class, then everything becomes very nice, and the whole form actually shows up by itself. Okay? Yeah.
What's the group action? What's the group action on this q to the k?
What is the what?
What is the group action on?
Oh, it's the same. So this is zq to the k. So you're acting with zq star, in fact.
Coordinate-wise?
Coordinate-wise, yeah. Is the left action on each of the coordinates. This is going to partition. So this is a vector space, okay? This is going to partition this. In fact, it's a group in this case. We don't care about the vector space fraction. So you're taking this. This is a group. So it's going to partition this group into several classes. Each of these class.
Isn't it just a line set?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yes. And then you have to do some pull. Anyhow, so it's easy, okay, from this point on. Okay. So first you express the mod gates using these exponential sums. Then you do the multiplications, and then you just partition the things in a clever way, or not so clever maybe, I don't know. And then you actually have the thing showing up again. Okay. Let me mention some consequences.
Where do you introduce the mod n?
Sorry.
Where do you introduce the mod n?
You start with mod R. Hey, mod Q. And where does mod F come from?
It's when I need the inverses. So where is it? You must have an inverse for this q to the k here.
It's like Bourgain's paper or something?
This is. I don't know to answer this question. I don't want to try to answer it now. Okay. But we can discuss it afterwards. Okay. So here is one consequence. Before, the lower bound was ACCC log n. Now the lower bound is an immediate consequence, becomes ACCC log n over log n. This is an almost exponential improvement. And there are also several consequences in the interactive compression setting that.
How do you go from that lemon to the entire thing? It's trivial.
No, it's not trivial. So this lemma is removing, this is the heart of the matter though. This lemma is removing the AND gates every time you're removing the AND gates. But there are AND gates that they show up for different reasons. There are again AND gates when you do depth step by step, the depth reduction. There are AND gates that you are generating. There are AND gates that they are already existing in the circuit. Okay, you're treating them in the same way, but you have to do it a little bit more carefully than what Bagel and Tarot did. You have to do it in a little bit more systematic way. And if you do it properly and you apply it, it's just a length. Everybody can do this argument. I mean, if I give you this lemma, if I give you this lemma, if I have given you this lemma, then you tell me, okay, yeah, I can do it. You know, I can take Bagel and Tarot paper and then simulate the thing and.
Eventually, you get a polynomial, and then over the integers, and then you do it mod m. There's just one m.
No, there are going to be many. That's what I'm saying. In every step, there are going to be. You have to choose them appropriately. Okay? No, it's not. It's not entirely trivial. In fact, it's not trivial. But it's not more difficult than Bagel and Tarot itself. Okay? So you have to, when you do the Bagel and Tarot, you have to interpolate this step in between, and you have to do it in a careful way. Okay? Yeah, good point. Very good point. So, and there are several consequences for the interactive compression setting. So this basically says that if you have two players and one player is limited to ACCC, whatever limited, and the other player is unbounded, how well, maybe then you can compute an X if you have one unbounded player. Okay? And there is previous work in the subject that I didn't have time I don't have time to discuss here, but just to give you a heads up again, this is the first result that hold for composites in this setting. Okay? Okay, so that's it. This is my co-author, Xiteng Chen. He's a student at Tsinghua University in Andy Yao's Institute. And he's really very great. So this work is his entire PhD, in fact. Okay? Okay. Many thanks to Ryan Williams for all the comments and interfering into the project and saying which things, you know, simply, there are a lot of things that they have changed and gotten simplified that wouldn't have been otherwise. And similar thing holds for Christopher Hansen. So these are not co-authors in the paper, but I feel I should thank them deeply, both of them. Okay, and thanks for being here. Okay.